If you were arrested for driving under the influence in Arizona, police officers likely invoked the admin per se law in order to get a blood or a breath sample for chemical testing after your arrest. What this means is that if you drive a vehicle in the state of Arizona, then you give consent to police to take a blood or a breath sample if they have reasonable grounds to believe that you are driving under the influence. If you are arrested and they invoke this admin per se, then your driving privilege will be suspended for 90 days starting 30 days after your arrest. If you refuse the chemical test at roadside, then your license will be suspended for 12 months starting 30 days after your arrest. And police likely went and got a warrant and drew your blood or got your breath anyway. So it's always a good thing if you are suspected of driving under the influence to consent to that blood or breath test after you've been placed under arrest. And yes, the suspension will happen anyway, even if you're later found not guilty of DUI or the charges are dismissed. So what do? Well, there's a couple of things. First, you do have a right to request a hearing on the admin per se suspension. So unfortunately, the scope of this hearing is very small. It's did the police have reasonable grounds to believe that you were driving under the influence? Were you arrested? And then did your breath or blood come back at a 0.08 or more? So if you do request a hearing, then that will stop the license suspension from happening. So that can be beneficial to you if you really have a need to drive immediately. It can get you some more time in order to get your affairs in order, or if by chance your blood or breath test came back below a 0.08, then you could potentially win the suspension. Also, sometimes police officers don't show up, but there are reasons why it still might be a good idea to stipulate to the suspension. And here's why. So if you request a hearing and then you later decide that you don't want to contest the suspension because you've gotten the police reports back, you've watched the body camera, you know what the chemical test is, and you know that it's pretty likely that you're not going to win the license suspension hearing, then you can stipulate to the suspension. And the benefit of this is that you will be allowed to pick the day that your suspension starts. And so that can be really important for planning purposes. It's also supposed to be such that you don't have to get an SR22 insurance, but I've seen MVD order it anyway, so I can't guarantee that result. One other good thing about your license suspension after a DUI arrest is that beginning in January of 2023, the Arizona State Legislature made some changes to the admin per se law and what happens to your license after you've been arrested for DUI. So whereas before January 1st, 2023, you would have to serve a full 90-day suspension and you could drive for the last 60 days for restricted purposes for school, work, child drop-off, etc. Well, now, if you get arrested for DUI and the police invoke the admin per se, you may not have to spend any time off the road. And that's because 30 days after your arrest, once the suspension is about to start, you may be eligible for a special ignition interlock device that will allow you to drive with an interlock during those 90 days. So if you have a reason that you really need to be on the road, you don't have to completely cease driving, although it will cost you. It's always a good idea to consult with an experienced criminal defense attorney if you've been arrested for DUI, particularly someone who is experienced with the motor vehicle division, their hearing process, and can help you navigate the system so that you're not accidentally driving without a license because you haven't taken the steps that you need in order to get your license back. So if you have been arrested for DUI, reach out to me, Amanda@ajblawfirm.com, 520-333-7977. Thanks.